everyone, ready for a deep dive into something super important. We're talking clean water and how one country is totally changing its relationship with this precious resource.
Yeah, it's a big deal, especially when you think about it. Only a tiny bit of the Earth's water is actually usable fresh water, like 0.3%.
It's crazy, right? That stat always gets me, puts things in perspective, and it's a challenge for a lot of places, but today we're looking at Singapore. They've been dealing with limited water for decades.
And on top of that, their agreement with Malaysia for water, that's ending soon, so they have to find new ways to, meet their needs. That's where their four national taps come in. It's a pretty innovative system.
Okay, so get this. Singapore has four main sources of water. They manage what they have, they import some, and they've gotten really good at turning seawater into drinking water, desalination. But here's the really cool part. They've also figured out how to treat wastewater so well that it's clean enough to drink. They call it N water.
Exactly. Turning a problem into a solution.
For sure. But they haven't stopped there. They want everyone to really value water, to feel connected to it. Which leads us to what we're diving into today, the Active, Beautiful, Clean Waters program. ABC Waters.
It's interesting because instead of the usual keeping people away from water to avoid pollution, they did the opposite. They decided to bring people closer to it.
And they've created these incredible public spaces around their waterways, making them beautiful, accessible. Think parks, walking paths, even cafes, all right by the water. And get this, there's a study from Nanyang Technological University that looked at how this program, ABC Waters, impacted things, economically speaking, in Punggol.
Yeah, they used this method called contingent valuation. Basically, they asked people how much they'd pay for these water improvements if they didn't already exist.
It's like imagine going to a bake sale where there are no prices, and they just ask you to donate what you think the cake is worth, trying to put a price on something priceless.
Yeah, and it's not easy to measure the value of a clean environment. People aren't always honest about what they'd pay, or they might not even realize how much clean water, a nice environment, impacts them.
So to make it more real, the researchers in Singapore got creative. Instead of just asking for a number, they showed people a card with different amounts, to help them visualize the cost. They also compared it to other public projects so people could relate.
Smart. Those are good ways to get better answers, more accurate. So what do they find?
So picture this, the Punggol Waterway. It's this man-made waterway designed with the whole ABC approach in mind. Turns out people love it. They're jogging, having picnics, enjoying the view. And most importantly, they are really happy with how clean the water is and the whole experience.
And what's really interesting is the people who are most satisfied with the waterway and all its features were also more willing to pay to maintain it. They saw the value firsthand.
Totally. And get this, it didn't matter if they lived in fancier housing or more affordable housing. Even residents who might not have as much money were all for ABC Waters. They loved it and were ready to chip in.
That's a big deal, It challenges that idea that only wealthier people care about the environment. Seems like wanting clean, beautiful public spaces might be something we all share.
Really makes you think about what these shared spaces are worth. You can't put a price on things like clean water and a nice park, but this study shows it means a lot to people. Rich or poor, doesn't matter.
Right, and those good feelings, they kind of spread, don't they? Like a well-kept park or waterway can bring folks together, get people moving, even increase property values. Those are all real, measurable benefits from taking care of the environment.
Totally connected. And let's not forget, practically speaking, cleaner water means less stress on those treatment plants, healthier ecosystems.
Yeah,
It helps everyone have a better future, right?
exactly. It's not just about, looking pretty. It's about tackling big issues head on, like cities growing too fast, climate change, all that.
So we've seen people really like these improvements, but what about the actual numbers from the study? What are they willing to pay?
So the amount each person said they'd pay every year might not seem like much on its own, but add it all up, and it's a huge investment in the program.
It's like those crowdfunding things, right? Small amounts from a lot of people really add up.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, this was just one area they looked at. Think about the whole country. If they did this everywhere in Singapore, the impact of these ABC waters would be enormous.
Makes you wonder, what made people respond so well? Was it just being near the water, or were there other things?
That's the thing. It's actually even more interesting than that. They found that someone's age, how much they made, their education, even if they lived close to the water, none of it really changed how much they'd pay.
Really? I would have thought those things would matter.
Yeah. It challenges what we think we know about the economics of the environment, you know? Like there's a deeper connection to these places, something more than just demographics.
It's like when you take a walk in a beautiful park, it just makes you feel better. You might not know exactly why, but you know it's important.
Right. And they found that people who used the Punggol waterway a lot for like exercise or hanging out, they felt more ownership, you know? They were more willing to pay too.
Makes sense. If you're there all the time, you want to see it taken care of, right?
It's about that connection people feel with their environment, which seems like a big part of what Singapore is doing with these ABC waters. They're not just building stuff. They're changing how people see and experience their surroundings.
They made these waterways into places you want to go to. It's not just somewhere you pass by, it's part of where you live.
It's a big change.
Yeah.
From something you think you should care about to something you want to be a part of. That's powerful.
It's like they cracked the code, you know? They didn't just talk about saving the environment, they actually made a place people want to be a part of.
It's amazing. And this study shows it's working. It's
Yeah.
helping the environment, but also the people. It's like their health, their community, even how much they're willing to invest in where they live. It's all connected.
Makes you think, could this work in other places? Could we see ABC Waters type stuff in other cities?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
And there's no one answer, but there are some important lessons here. One thing is, these spaces have to be easy to get to and enjoyable to be in. It can't just be about, pipes and plants. It has to be a place, a destination that draws people in.
Yeah, it's got to be personal. Help people see the value, not just as a concept, but in their own lives, and how it makes them feel, how it brings them together.
Exactly. And it shows how important it is to get the residents involved, to make them stakeholders, right? When people feel like they're part of something, that they have a stake in it, they're more likely to support it with their money and their actions.
It always comes back to that connection, doesn't it? When people feel connected to a place, they want to protect it, to take care of it, to make sure it's around for a long time.
And that's something really powerful. It's not just about having a greener city. It's about building a deeper relationship between people and the world around them.
Perfectly said. And with that, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. But like always, it's just the start of the conversation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
This study gives us a lot to think about. But more than that, it gives us hope. It shows that if we change how we do things, we can make cities that are sustainable, but also truly thriving.
So to everyone listening, we'll leave you with this. What would an ABC Waters project look like where you live? What small changes can you make to feel more connected to your own environment?
Remember, even the smallest actions can have a big impact. And together, we can make a real difference.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time for another fascinating look at the ideas shaping our world.